Today I want to make a confession because I suffer from a psychological disorder called COPE. That's C-O-P-E. And COPE is no joke.
This episode is brought to you by Munich High-End, the world's leading international audio show, running May 15 through 18 at the MOC.
So let me tell you how COPE affects me, because I would love, really love, to own a luxury car, but I don't have the money for a luxury car. And that's mainly because most of my disposable income is spent on rent, a mortgage, and hi-fi gear. And my interest in hi-fi gear means my inability to afford a luxury car is kind of a matter of choice, not just income. So in other words, I prioritize hi-fi gear over cars, but I still want that luxury car. So now I have to cope with not having the money to buy a luxury car. And I do that by telling myself that all luxury cars are a rip-off. And then sometimes I even write that on car forums. So someone will post a photo of their newly bought luxury car, and underneath that photo I will write rip-off. And sometimes I will tell them in that same comment that my 20-year-old Ford Escort is just as good. Now on other occasions, I'll go to a Facebook group dedicated to Formula One racing, and I'll write about how I went to a Formula One race once and that there's no way that a car like that is worth the money that the team paid for it. Now, have I ever sat in a Formula One car? No. Have I ever driven one? No. But I did see one whiz past me at the track. So no, I don't need to have an experience with a car to know that it's a complete rip-off. Talking of which, last week I watched a YouTube video that said all you need is a Toyota Corolla. Or Corolla, how do you say that? Corolla, I don't know. Anyway, it said all you need is a Toyota Corolla because according to that YouTuber, a Corolla is almost as good as a BMW i7. And never had I felt so seen as when I watched that video. Finally, someone else who gets me. Now, never mind that I've never driven an i7 or sat in an i7, although I did see one in the street near me here a couple of weeks ago. And that's all the experience I need to know that that car is only just a tiny bit better than the Toyota hatchback. And I also tell myself that the insurance on a BMW would cost an arm and a leg, and that, to be honest, I've got nowhere else to park it. And then when I'm feeling really desperate, I'll tell myself that my push bike will get me from A to B just as effectively as a luxury car like the BMW i7. And I'll also say that anyone who spends more than push bike money on a vehicle is an idiot. But then I have the dark days, right? And that's when my cope or my self-delusion wears off. And I realize that riding a bike or driving a family hatchback is not the same as driving a luxury car. And I also realize that the stories I tell myself, so the self-delusion, are my way of dealing with the emotional insecurities that I have about my own financial limitations. So it's not the limitations themselves, it's my emotional insecurities surrounding those financial limitations. And judging by the comments left beneath my videos here on YouTube, I think some of you might also be fellow cope sufferers. And I just wanted to make this video to let you know that you are not alone. So cope is where we see something that we want, but we cannot afford. And then, and this is the important part, the then, because we don't have the money to buy that thing, we invent stories to diminish its performance. So cope is not a money issue, it's a psychological issue. It's not because we are poor, because like cameras and cars and bikes and coffee machines and hi-fi components are all luxury goods. And if we can afford any kind of luxury good, we are not poor. No, cope is how we respond with self-delusion to gear we cannot afford. So essentially, when we can't get what we want, we tell ourselves and others that we want what we can get.